So kind of getting into what we'll talk about today, the agenda for tonight's workshop, we'll talk about finishing this term strong and starting next term off successfully. So we'll reflect on what you might have done well this term, what you can do better next time, and we'll do a little Q&A. But before we really get into the info on tonight's topic, I'd love to hear in the chat if you'd like to type something up. How do you feel your term went this? How do you feel your class went this term? Do you feel it was productive? Do you feel that you might have fallen behind? Do you feel that you might need to reach out to tutoring for assistance? Maybe you think you did great this term. I'd love to know how everyone's term went. So feel free to post that in the chat. I would love to hear that. Went very well. I'm happy to hear that. I completed everything yesterday. Yeah, I always like to remind my own students, as we're getting into week 8, the earlier that you can get your assignments done in week 8, the better, right? That gives you a longer break. And I will remind you too, we do have a 4-week break in between this term and next term. So we have these classes technically end December 14th. That's this upcoming Sunday. And we'll pick back up on January 12th, Monday, January 12th. So we have about 4 weeks off. If you have any questions during that time, advising staff, financial aid staff, student accounts staff will all be in for the most part during normal business hours unless they're taking any time off. But we will be, for the most part, fully staffed during that time. So just as a reminder, I'm seeing a lot of good feedback, very productive. It went well. I learned a lot of new skills. Classes were structured. I feel like I did good. I'm falling behind. Hard to catch up. Yes, absolutely. And that happens. Reach out for tutoring. Yep. I feel behind. Yeah, and that's absolutely okay. I will put in the Center for Academic Success. Just putting their contact information into the chat right now. cass@post.edu, as well as their phone number. There we go. So that's in the chat for you. That's the direct email address as well as phone number for our Center for Academic Success should you need any assistance with tutoring. It was doable. That's good. I also like to preface my conversations with newer students or students who are new to me. This is college level work, right? We have to ensure that our expectations are appropriate for what we're getting ourselves into. Though everything can be very flexible, right? Everything's completely online. We want to make sure we're expecting the appropriate amount of a course load, if you will. So ensuring you understand that as a college student, you're going to have assignments, you're going to have readings to complete, you're going to have discussion boards to post in. There's a lot of moving parts to being a college student, and I'm sure you guys have all noticed that by now, but I like to make sure everyone's expectations are in the right place. Courses went very well. Time flew by. Time always flies by. I noticed that even in my own degree programs. My classes were 11 weeks long, but it felt like they would just fly by. And all of a sudden, I was nearly 3 months later into the year somehow. Did great. That's awesome. Great, great. Good feedback. So let's get into this. So how can we finish this term off strong? Again, we're in week 8. If you've fallen behind at this point, let's say you haven't participated in classes since week 4, week 5, week 6, even last week early on, what can you do at this point to finish the term off strong? The first thing you can do is get in touch with your advisor, get in touch with your professor, and get into your course. So take a moment to look at what this week's work entails. And then, get those assignments done as best you can. You always want to make sure you're connecting with your advisor and your professor about the possibility of submitting any makeup work if you've fallen behind, but it is very important that you do get back into classes if you've been out. I have a lot going on, but I'm trying. I love that. Thank you for saying that, Brandy. I know a lot of times every student here has a very unique background, so there's a lot going on, of course, and I appreciate you for making that comment. This class was very informative. Awesome. I'm hearing some great feedback. Okay, apologies there. Um, So again, finishing this term off strong. With this being the home stretch of classes, you only have a few more days of work to finish. 8 weeks have probably flown by, as we just said. So now is a good time to wrap up and reflect to build on this term as you strive for improvement. So again, what did we do good? What did we do not so well this term? If you're in one of your first terms of your program, you can expect that, how your courses have been laid out is pretty standard across the board. So can you get used to the expectations of a college class? So how are you doing in class? If the answer is really good, maybe check your grades as soon as possible and see if they are where you should be. If you have any questions with assignments or if there are missing grades, today's the day to reach out to your faculty with questions. Don't wait. So today's Tuesday. I always like to let students know that professors have 48 hours to reply to your emails, 48 business hours. This means that if I email my professor on a Wednesday night at 9 p.m., they have until Friday night at 9 p.m. to answer my email. And I understand that can be frustrating. I understand that as a student. I also understand that as a professor. We've got a lot going on outside of teaching the class. So it is best to get in touch with them as soon as possible if questions arise. If you have any papers you want to have another set of eyes take a peek at before you submit, please reach out to our Center for Academic Success. We call that CAS, CAS. I'm just reposting their information in the chat. So you'll see that just pop up in the chat as well. Otherwise, don't forget to analyze for hidden opportunities to make improvements. Let's step back for a second. So, everyone obviously entered their degree program with a goal, whatever that goal might be, maybe to just personally, what am I trying to say? Work on personal development. Maybe that's get further in your career. Maybe that's to set an example for a family member or even for kids. Everyone has a reason for going towards their degree, whatever that reason is. And where I'm getting at in terms of this last bullet point is the subject matter you're learning is important to your degree program, which is then important to whatever your goal is. So making sure you're taking the most out of these courses is super, super important. You're paying for these courses. So it's important to take a look and see, am I getting the most out of my classes? Am I doing the best to get my readings done and really focus on what I'm reading and understand the material? That's really, really important as you go along. And that's also a good skill to acquire earlier on in your degree program. I know I'll share for myself. In my undergraduate program, I was in person, but I found myself really rushing through assignments a lot of the time, not really taking in the material as holistically and I think as well as I could overall. So I like to kind of stop and remind students that every day is always an opportunity to learn something new. You always have that opportunity in your courses, when you're reading through your materials, when you're listening to videos, even doing your assignments, especially with the use of AI now. It's very important to get as much as you possibly can out of these assignments because a lot of times the assignments can translate into things that you might have to deal with in the workforce. So if I asked how you're doing and you say I'm not sure, again, be sure to check your grades as soon as possible to see if you are where you should be. Are there any assignments you need help with? Again, that reminder to reach out to your faculty, to classmates, or the Center for Academic Success. We are again on Tuesday of week 8. All assignments are usually due Friday of week 8 unless your professor has noted otherwise. So what this means is if you need to reach out to your professor, they do have that 48-hour reply window. We need to respect that. That would bring us to Thursday night at 7:20 p.m. So if that's the case, and if you have a dire question that you'd like answered, another good place to ask it might be the hallway chat in your course to see if your classmates have the same question, or might be able to answer your question. Sometimes you can ask your advisor if you want to give them a phone call. We might be able to clarify sometimes. But overall, the Center for Academic Success might be a really good resource here too, because they can actually assist you with your assignment-based needs. Some of you may receive an email from your instructor indicating coursework you may have submitted that I don't like how this is phrased. Essentially, what this last bullet point is saying is that sometimes a professor will email you with just a general announcement stating that makeup work is accepted, and you might be able to submit week 7 and 8 work, but not, I don't know, week 1 work, if that makes sense. So always take a look. We like to foster autonomy in our students. Always take a look in your course. 9 times out of 10, the answer is right there in your class. But if you do have a question, you're more than welcome to ask us. We're happy to help too. Now, if I asked how you're doing in class and you think maybe not too good, again, checking your grades. Very, very, very important thing to do. How do your grades look? Do you have zeros because you haven't submitted everything? Do you have maybe D's and C's, maybe even some F's, though the assignments were graded? If so, did a significant event preclude you from successfully completing your class? Did something medical go on? Maybe a family emergency? If so, it's important to reach out to your instructor to ask if you're eligible for an incomplete. An incomplete is an option where you do have extended time after the end of a term to complete your work. I would say we highlight an incomplete as an option in terms like this, where we have a break in between terms. So usually that's the December term, or I should say term 3 of every academic year. And then at the end of our June term, usually I want to say that's term 1. We have a break in between classes. So of course, an incomplete is always an option. However, you might find that if you do an incomplete and your professor gives you an extra week to complete your assignments, that will bleed into next term's class. So if you're behind and you are eligible for an incomplete, which you'd want to discuss with your professor, this is a really great term to use that option. You can also discuss with your academic advisor if you're eligible for a petition. This is something that you can discuss directly with your advisor, but overall, this is an opportunity to fill out a form that would explain your extenuating circumstances, and you could file for like financial credit for the class. That's something, again, you want to discuss more in detail with your advisor, but that's kind of the gist of what that is. And then reflect on the term and determine how it can end differently. Next term is an opportunity to change behaviors to improve. More than likely, if this is not your last term at post-university, you have several terms before you graduate. The future can be changed as long as you are willing to put in the work to do that. So if this term wasn't your best, we do all have those bad moments. One term you might not do as well as you'd like. That doesn't mean the future is, let me rephrase that. That doesn't mean it's impossible to do well in the future. As long as you have that belief in yourself, you are more than capable of doing well in classes. Just going to read through the chat here because, again, I'm here by myself. Enjoyed the work and the discipline structure. Awesome. I receive information. Growing my education. That's awesome. I'm hearing some great feedback. Cool to be able to help others. Awesome. How do I unmute my mic? That's a good question. So you'll notice that you can't unmute your mic. The reason being, in the past, when we started these workshops, which we did almost 4 years ago, which is crazy, everyone would come off mute and it would be a little bit of a catastrophe. So you don't have that option right now. I will allow you to unmute at the end, but right now you can't unmute while the presentation is going on. Oh, I see. Good evening, David. David's not here tonight. It's me, Marissa. Let's see. I have a lot of zeros, but I work 16-hour shifts. Yeah, so, understanding, Brandy, where you're at, are you able to maybe handle 2 classes? Is 1 class better for you? That's something you can always discuss with your advisor too, but making sure, because you are here for the purpose of getting an education, it's important that your assignments are getting done. And I can do it if I have faith. Exactly, exactly. As long as you have the belief in yourself to do it, you can absolutely get it done. That leads us to starting next term successfully. So if you finished last term, no. How you finished last term has no impact or determination on how successful you will be next term. Every term is an opportunity to be even more successful. Absolutely. I think we can all agree that maybe just because you did poorly this term does not mean that you'll do poorly next term. And even vice versa, just because you did great this term doesn't mean you'll just fly through next term easily. Classes can be challenging depending on the subject matter. So it's very important to set goals and, of course, be realistic with yourself. So starting next term successfully, start early. Once the course opens, get in, review course objectives, materials, and the syllabus. This is very important. You'll notice in Blackboard, on the left-hand menu, you'll see course information. In that tab, you can look at all of the information about the class. You'll also see the syllabus, which outlines all of the assignments in the course. So it's very important to get an understanding of that. I would say 9 times out of 10, the students I speak to don't even look at the syllabus. That's an issue for a lot of reasons, mainly that you aren't really getting a full understanding of what you'll be doing in the class. So how can you be prepared for the class if you don't know what you're doing? So review those materials when you have the time. Again, if I'm running the time management workshop, I usually say this, but take some time on your Sunday nights, or this is just a personal example, I guess, but I like to take time in my Sunday evenings to take a look at what I had coming up in my courses. So if I have a busy week with school, again, we have that work-life balance that you need to maintain. So work, family, whatever it is, taking a look at the week ahead and seeing how you can build your schedule, or how you can build, what do I want to say here? How do I want to phrase this? How you can input your assignments and your schoolwork in your built schedule is very important. So start early, review what the expectations are, and again, try to plan ahead. Starting your reading and submitting your work for the week as soon as you can is very, very important. So head start for the term during the first week when work is lighter. Usually in most classes, the first week is a lighter workload. So ensuring that, as it is a lighter workload, you're getting that work done earlier. That way you don't fall behind, and kind of give yourself that domino effect downwards. Start to build momentum and finish each successive week early so you're ahead of the game. Some examples include getting your discussion board done on Monday, your assignment done on Saturday afternoon instead of Sundays. Then you can start the following week as soon as it's open. Awesome. I'm seeing some really good feedback in the chat. I love all the comments we're getting. Very, very nice. But again, as we start next term, it's important to start early. When you do start early, you're more than likely going to continue at that pace going forward in the class. All right, on this slide, starting next term successfully, introduce yourself. I'm going to give us a little star here on this because I could not agree with this anymore. As a faculty member myself, I think this is so, so valuable. Your faculty member is 9 times out of 10 an expert in the field that they're teaching. So it's very, very important that you're introducing yourself to them, letting them know maybe why you're excited to take the course. This is especially applicable when you're in your major courses. So, the classes you're really interested in. getting in touch with your faculty early on, introducing yourself, asking any questions. That's a really, really great way to build rapport with your faculty. And also meeting your classmates. So there's the hallway chat that's available in the discussions forum in each class. You can introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Marissa. I live in Connecticut. My goal at the end of pick a random class, HSV 101, Human Services 101, is to understand the fundamentals of human services and ensure that I picked the right major, something like that, that I'm interested in this major. Does anyone want to meet up on Wednesday nights for a virtual, I don't know, study session? I think something like that, posting that can help you in this virtual atmosphere, right? It's not the same as a face-to-face institution. In the virtual environment, it's very important to connect with your classmates, and this is one way to do that. Responses to discussion boards, again, that's another way to build rapport with your classmates. And then reach out to people with similar programs, I should say who are in similar programs, who have similar careers, similar goals. All of this is a really, really great way, again, to get to know your classmates. Let's see. Oh, awesome. Sending an email to the professor to ask about late work. Alonza, I see your question. I have a hard time with sending an email to the professor to ask about late classwork. So your professor's email address is available in the Meet Your Instructor tab. So you would copy their email address, and then you'd be able to paste that into a new email in your email to be able to ask them about that. Also important for starting next term successfully is thinking ahead. So register for next term early. I don't like this. Usually your advisor will register you, will get in touch with you about what we can get you registered for. But working with your academic success advisor is very important to get your classes for this term and beyond. Get support. Get your support system ready at school and at home. So whether this is, again, your instructor building rapport in that initial email, maybe let's say you're going into math, right? A lot of programs at Post, I think every program aside from our certificate programs include at least one math course. So let's say math isn't your strong suit. Emailing your professor in that first week of class. Hi, Professor so-and-so, my name is Marissa. I'm excited to take statistics this semester, but I'm a little worried. Do you have any suggestions, maybe study tips as we start up the term? Something very simple that'll take you like, I don't know, maybe a minute to write up and send. Getting in touch with your instructor and letting them know what your worries are for the upcoming term is super important. Speak with your academic advisor and the instructor the moment you have any challenges that may cause you not to be successful. So let's say you have a family emergency. You're not going to be able to participate in classes. You might need to withdraw. Get in touch with us as soon as possible because more than likely we'll have more options for you at that time. And then we also have our Center for Academic Success, like I highlighted, and we have SOAR. Let me get more information on SOAR for you guys. Okay, SOAR. Let me paste this in our chat here. So SOAR is more of our mental health and wellness services that we offer directly through Post. Feel free to take a look at the link that I just provided in the chat. You'll see where it says, if you click that link and scroll down a little bit, it says SOAR on the right-hand side, providing 24/7 professional and confidential access to a variety of helpful services whenever it is most convenient to you. So that is a resource included in your tuition. Feel free to take a look at that. And then lastly, have a plan for the whole term before you start class. Again, this is why I like to remind students to take a look at your syllabus because there are a lot of important assignments as you go through the course. You can kind of pencil those into your calendar, if you will. So maybe during week 8 of the upcoming term, that'll bring us, believe it or not, the next term starts on January 12th. So it'll bring us to March, which I think is crazy, at the end of those 8 weeks. So maybe the beginning of March, end of February is a busy time for you. And when you're looking at your syllabus, you see you've got 2 big final assignments for your classes. Understanding that in advance is very helpful. That way you can start working on it a little bit earlier in the term. And that's where I put in backwards planning right here. Through the term, use backwards planning for longer assignments. So if you have that big assignment due in week 8, maybe you get it started in week 5 and take maybe, I don't know, an hour a week to work on it. And then set your ideal final grade. So let's say you're taking math this term. You're not confident in your math skills. Of course, we have our Center for Academic Success to assist you. We have, you can get in touch with your instructor. They have office hours to assist you. But what course grade do you want in this term? And how will you get there? What resources will you use? Answering all of these questions in advance is a really, really good idea. That way you can kind of default to whatever you answer. So let's say, again, using the example of math, maybe I'm taking Math 220, statistics. What course grade do I want? I would like to get an A-. That's my goal. How will I get there? Well, I will make sure to get my discussion boards done on Monday. That way I'm staying on track. I'll get any exercises done on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That way, if I have questions, I can attend my professor's Wednesday office hours, and then I'll get my assignments turned in by Friday. That way, if I have any sort of issue, I can connect with an advisor still on a Friday, or my professor, I can send them an email, something like that. What resources will you need? Again, Center for Academic Success is an option. I'll use my professor's office hours, like I just mentioned. So really answering those questions concretely, that way you have a plan to fall back on. That's super, super important. And then lastly, don't wait if you fall behind. Ask for help as early as possible. We do request that you ask us for help. That way we can give you the best advice going forward. So that is the end of my presentation. Feel free, maybe take a moment if you wanted to kind of reflect on what we went over, if you took any notes maybe, see if you have any questions. I'm just going to come onto mute here for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Again, I do ask that questions are on tonight's topic. So we talked about finishing strong and starting successfully. If you have questions on this topic, please feel free to use the hand raise feature. That way I can take you off of mute, or you can type them up in the chat. Otherwise, if you don't have any questions, you're absolutely free to leave this workshop. We're done with the presentation itself. I will let you know what workshops we've got coming up. So today is December 9th. Tomorrow is the 10th. We have finishing strong and starting successfully once again. Whoa, sorry about that. On Thursday, we have, let me see here. On Thursday, we have Advanced Student Empowerment at 7 p.m. Friday, 12/12 is a trivia night. It's a Winter Wonderland theme. That's with Nicole and David. And then Saturday at 1 p.m., we have Finishing Strong and Starting Successfully once more. That will bring us to the end of this term. And then over the course of the break, as I had mentioned, we have a 4-week break in between this term and next. We will still be running workshops. The university will be open during normal business hours. So we'll still be here. But let me know. Feel free if you have any questions, feel free to type them up in the chat, or feel free to use the raise your hand feature and I can let you off of mute. Okay, Carrie, I see your hand. You should be able to unmute yourself. Oh, if you're talking, we still can't hear you. You just want to click the microphone. Let's see. I can't unmute you. But if you're able to, you just want to click the microphone icon. I did allow your mic. If not, you're more than welcome to type up your question in the chat. Happy to answer it that way too. Do they do anything for freshmen? Let's see. If that was your question, I want to say there's no specific workshops right now geared towards freshmen aside from more of our introductory workshops. Really, if you're a newer student, you'll be working with a newer student advisor, so a first term or a first year advisor who have more info on that kind of thing for newer students. I usually work with students who are in the university for about a year or so, so I'm not sure if there's anything particularly for newer students. But that would be something that you can chat with your advisor about. They would have more info and details for you. Will we know what classes we're taking through break? So no classes during break. That whole break, that 4-week break, there will be no classes. That's why if you look at your portal, you might not see any classes listed for the upcoming term because we do have that 4-week break. But you can always give your advisor a call, send them an email. They can tell you what class you'll be taking when we return in January. How can we see what classes? Awesome. Answered that question. Perfect. Let's see. Okay, I want to say your name is pronounced Rui. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. You should be able to come off. Yeah.
Pronounced Ruhi. Hello,
Oh,
how are you?
perfect. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So my question is that do we get enrolled in new courses automatically, or do we have to register ourselves?
Great.
How does that happen?
Great question. So your advisor will register you if there's ever a time where you might need to pick a class for an elective, or let's say you're unhappy with a class that you've been registered for. Your advisor can absolutely work with you to change it, but more than likely we do register our students ourselves, and then you can see what you're registered for. But again, if there's anything you're ever questioning, or if you need to make any decisions for electives, concentrations, minors, that kind of thing, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Let's see if we've got any more. Who do I talk to about my computer I ordered when classes started? Good question. That would be a question for your advisor. We have a whole laptop team here at Post, so if you had a laptop referral put through for you and you didn't receive the confirmation email, you'll want to get in touch with your advisor. How do I see my new classes? No problem. So you'll have to ask your advisor right now because we have the 4-week break. They won't show up immediately. You'll have to ask your advisor. A lot of students are going to be calling in, I imagine. They usually do on Monday of next week because they don't see their classes. They might not be aware that we have a break. So we can save everyone the time. If you want to give them a call, if your advisor a call this week, that way we can kind of get that answered for you. Good question, though. Your advisor can tell you what class you're registered for. Otherwise, you'll be able to see it as we get closer to January. Great. Any other questions concerns on tonight's topic. I'll sit back here for maybe like 5 minutes or so. Otherwise, oh, yes. Let me allow you off of mute. Okay.
I was just curious that winter is the only time we get 4 week break, or do we get that in summer as well?
Good question. So winter is the longest break. It's usually 3 weeks. This week it's four. Excuse me. This year it's four. And then between our June and August term, so term one, I want to say it's usually the second or third week of August. We have a 1 week break, but those
Okay.
are the only 2 times per year we get the break in between.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, of course. Good question. Excellent questions tonight. So will we still have workshops? Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a full schedule during the break. I can even let you know a couple of the workshops. I think the schedule is still kind of being built, so it's tentative right now, but I can let you know what it's looking like at the moment. So we have a few Microsoft workshops. I think those will be great. Going over how to use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, and OneNote. Even if you feel you are proficient in these classes, or in these software, in these tools, whatever you want to call them, if you feel you're proficient in them, I still recommend attending these workshops because as you advance in your coursework, a lot of the times your courses will require you to use these particular programs, and there might be features that you didn't know about. So these are great opportunities to learn more, and those will be happening during the break. No specific dates just yet. We'll also have a Canva 101 workshop. That's really cool if you are familiar with Canva. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's very creative. You can make posters, flyers, that kind of thing. If you need to do any creative assignments for class, that's a good resource to be familiar with. And then we have a few workshops on Blackboard and Blackboard Ultra. So if you are in your first term or your first year, we are moving into Blackboard Ultra. I want to say in January. So that's a new updated oh my goodness, sorry everyone. Updated form or version of Blackboard. Um, so those workshops will be going on in January. Blackboard just as we have it now, and then Blackboard Ultra. So otherwise, that's what we've got coming up. Great questions. Awesome. Awesome questions. Awesome. Wonderful. So I'm going to pop the advising line phone number in the chat once more in case you do want to connect with your advisor to confirm what your upcoming courses are. There are advisors in until 8 p.m. Eastern, so you got about 10 minutes if you wanted to give them a call tonight. If not, tomorrow. We typically have advisors in 8 to 8. So feel free to give an advisor a call. Any advisor can help you with your upcoming registration, what classes you're registered for. Otherwise, no. Oh, do we need to check our email during break? What a good question. Thank you for asking that. Absolutely. I would say 100% yes. I would say checking your student email on a regular basis is very important, not only for academic purposes, but also for financial purposes. So, financial aid will usually contact you through your student email. So, if there's anything that needs to be updated on their side of things, that's where they'll send a lot of their communication. Student accounts, too. So definitely be in the habit of checking your email over break. I would say if you know how to do it, add your student Outlook account to your phone if you have an iPhone, and you can add it to your email app. That way you can keep up to date very easily. But yes, that's a really, really great question. Yes, I would recommend keeping on top of your student email. Good question. Great questions. Alrighty. Well, again, oh yes. Yes. Roy, feel free to come off mute.
Yeah, I see a few courses on my unofficial transcript, like that I'm registered for next 2 terms. Are those the ones that I'm going to be registered for? Like, is it?
Good. Yeah, good question. So that's a place that you should be able to locate your upcoming courses. Usually students will look in Blackboard and they won't see them, so they'll be kind of confused. But yes, if you look at your unofficial transcript, you should see accurately what you're registered for. That's a really, really good tip.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Good question. Okay. And then Norva, you should be able to come off mute.
Yeah, my question was, do you think it would be hard for me? I was thinking about a second class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
if go ahead.
uh-huh.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was thinking about a second class.
Oh, sure. So there's a couple different pieces we want to consider if you are part-time going to full-time. Um, Firstly, of course, the academic concerns, can you handle 2 courses at once? What does that look like? But also the financial piece. So are you covered for 2 classes? That's something you'd want to check in with your financial advisor about.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, before I
Yeah.
just jump into that, huh?
Exactly. And you would want to do that. We have the 4-week break, so you do have time to be added to a second class. There's no rush. But I
Okay.
would say, if you get in touch with your advisor, they can let you know, academically speaking, what they might recommend that you take. And then you can
Hmm.
also get in touch with your financial aid advisor just to confirm that you're covered.
Okay, thank you.
Right, of course. Great question.
Mhm.
Awesome. Really, really good questions tonight.